So, another tournament of the strongest league has come to an end, providing us with a plethora of impressions and adding to the collection of bright highlights in the overall history of mixed martial arts. As you already know, the Brazilian nightmare from kickboxing, who joined the main promotion just 2 years ago, managed to achieve so much in that time that it's time to place him in the ranks of the greatest performers of all time. The main event of UFC 295 ended with a devastating knockout by Alex Pereira, who became the new light heavyweight champion. And today we will reminisce about all of Poatan's knockouts in his MMA career. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel please, also like and leave a comment in 4 words. Well, let's get started. So, despite not having the most successful debut in mixed martial arts, the reason for which lies in the incomplete transition to the new discipline and a simple attempt to test his skills in another arena, Alex Pereira was determined to avenge the only defeat in his barely started MMA career. On January 23, 2016, in the times when the Brazilian was still conquering kickboxing and Glory World Series, he participated in the 85th numbered event by Jungle Fight. His opponent that night was compatriot Marcelo Cruz, who apparently either lost his lucky horseshoe or on the contrary did not acquire a charm for luck, leaving the Brazilian deprived of his last chance for survival inside the cage. May Dwayne Johnson forgive us, but to put it briefly and to the point, on that night, Poatan came out with the intention to move all of the mountains, rocks and in general, the entire landscape that stood in his way. Unfortunately for the Rock from Brazil, of course, nothing that Marcelo tried worked on the huge and unresponsive killer from the Favela Kingdom. The only role Cruz handled better than his opponent was that of a punching bag, which took damage on all levels and gradually fell apart under the onslaught of the formidable knockout artist. Everything possible and impossible was going on from Pereira. Crazy attacks from the turntable, hard low kicks, killer boxing combinations, in general everything that constantly scared everyone under the Glory banner. Pereira's arsenal, along with other aspects and the level of preparation, was truly astonishing. Poatan could work both as the first and second number in the southpaw and orthodox stances. This didn't matter much. However, if you suddenly decided, just like Marcelo Cruz, that you could simply take the Brazilian to the canvas and beat him in the ground game since he's a kickboxer without grappling skills, then you were in for a bitter disappointment. Very soon after such an episode, Pereira got back on his feet, and from that moment, the countdown began, clearly predicting the end for the Rock's jaw. When there was less than a minute left in the round, Poatan pulled the trigger and went for a furious finish. He wanted not just to knock out his opponent, but to reach his consciousness, extract him from Marcelo's body, and send him to another dimension. In fact, that's what happened. A couple of precise hits from Alex did the job and gave him his first knockout in professional MMA. 4 months later, precisely on May the 21st of the same year, Alex Pereira showed up in the octagon again to add to the cup of pain and increase the number of victims for his track record. At the 87th Jungle Fight event, which took place in the heart of Sao Paulo, he faced Marcus Vinicius. By that time, the latter had moved on a streak of 6 consecutive victories and intended to stop the fearsome kickboxer who was frightening the entire industry. But he greatly underestimated his capabilities. Let's be honest, the first thing that surprised was Alex Pereira with a mustache. Admit it, it gives off the vibe of your neighbor who drops by on weekends to check on your family and have a couple of drinks for good health. But we digress. Vinicius' tactic was simple and clear. As the unrecognized philosopher of our time, Strickland, used to say, "I'll hitch up the horses and you go fight this huge and scary Brazilian." This is exactly what Marcus set out to do right from the beginning of the encounter. He didn't even consider the possibility of a shootout with Poatan because he understood that even if he were a cat, a left hook from the Brazilian would end all 9 of his lives simultaneously. Based on this, the fighter desperately tried to close the distance, hold Alex in the clinch against the cage, and exert all efforts to prevent him from creating space. because a few times Pereira managed to do so, and as a result, he immediately targeted the opponent's face with heavy punches. So, the first round passed, resulting in Marcus's tired face conveying all the pain from the encounter with the Brazilian killer. But ahead of us awaits the second segment. Although Vinicius already looked like a man who miraculously survived an encounter with a Dementor one-on-one, this didn't stop him from continuing attempts to keep Pereira at bay using the clinch and takedowns. In general, you can understand him. We know many stories of how people faced with the fear of death did the most unimaginable things to save themselves or their loved ones. In this case, Marcus's life was at stake, for which he fought with all his might. In the end, the adrenaline pumped into his blood was not enough for this guy to make it to the break before the third segment. In the created window, Alex Pereira squeezed everything out of the situation and finally finished his opponent with a technical knockout. Strangely enough, the next appearance of the Brazilian on the MMA radar took place only more than 4 years later. In November 2020, Poatan returned to the octagon after completing the game called kickboxing. At LFA 95, he shared the cage with Thomas Powell in the United States. To describe this fight, let's use a comment kindly left for us by a user under the nickname Dennis Warren 1933. Having a physique isn't going to save you against Pereira, and we completely agree with him on this. The first round, a signature left hook, a solid knockout, clear, precise, lightning fast. Exactly a year later, in November 2021, the most frightening fighter in the world made his debut in the main MMA organization. At UFC 268, Alex Pereira faced Greek fighter Andreas Michailidis.
So I came here to be a champion. Who knows, maybe by the time that I get there, he's no longer the champion anymore. So I'm just focusing on one day at a time. I just got to the organization and just aiming to be a champion here. If I get there, it's him, fine. If sometimes maybe cannot be him, so we go what he had.
The official start of the Brazilian's journey under the UFC roof is considered this meeting, deserving the Performance of the Night award. As you remember, and Michailidis does not, Alex Pereira knocked out Andreas early in the second round. An epic knee from hell stopped the Greek in an impressive manner with a technical knockout.
Frustrated all was actually good because the way that he was squeezing, the way that he was overcommitting for the power, the way that he was putting so much energy, I felt he was getting tired, so I just decided to just stay there, just stay composed, because I knew for the second round he would not be able to never do a three-round fight like that, so I just took my time.
The next knockout in Poatan's MMA career caught up with him in July 2022. Then, as you all know, the Brazilian entered the fight against the future middleweight champion Strickland. The encounter, fortunately, we never got to see the wrestling skills of the American, as in the middle of the first 5 minutes, his jaw relinquished all authority and refused to function. Alex Pereira unleashed an elusive left strike, which even the sparring 24/7 Strickland simply didn't have time to notice, for which he paid with a first round knockout defeat.
Super happy, training, and he just showed that our training and everything is working well, and so happy, super happy.
In the penultimate place is the performance that turned the Brazilian killer into a full-fledged star of mixed martial arts. On November the 12th, 2022, Alex Pereira stepped into the ring against Israel Adesanya. This occasion, if anyone is not informed, is unique in the history of sports. Two kickboxing exponents entered MMA with a few years difference. After the first fighter climbed to the top of the new discipline, the second followed in his footsteps, and in the shortest time possible, he found himself once again in the path of the same guy he had to defeat in another industry. In general, as soon as Pereira joined the UFC, it became clear to many that most likely in the future, we would witness his collision with the last stylebender. It was only a matter of time, and when that moment arrived and everyone froze in the anticipation of UFC 281, the most interesting part began.
I want to be the first person he sees when he wakes up. I want to make sure I'm right in his line of sight, so when he wakes up, he's looking at me and then looking at the ref. And
I see this being a very hard and difficult fight. Maybe the hardest fight that I ever had. Israel, gotta give it to him too. He's a great champion. He's a great fighter. He have a great story. But now it's my time to shine.
On that very night, exactly a year ago, Alex Pereira shocked the world by stopping Israel Adesanya with a technical knockout in the final round. He managed to repeat his feat and prove that he is no less praiseworthy than Izzy, as he doesn't lag behind in anything.
I feel so good. Been training all my life. I worked so hard for this. It was written. Sorry for everybody that I had to post some stuff. Do a little bit of trash talk this time, but was healthy. But I had to get on his head to get on this fight. Well, it was a very hard fight, but just like Glover said, I was going through a fight every day at the gym. I was going through 5 rounds all the time. For everybody that said they couldn't do 5 rounds, look what I just did right now. I'm ready for the next.
Now, the last knockout for the day happened quite recently, and honestly, it leads to certain reflections. Once again, Alex Pereira creates an upset, which we will talk about now, in November as part of the main event of the numbered event. On November 11th at UFC 295, the merciless Brazilian Poatan got a chance of a lifetime. After Izzy avenged his defeat in April, already at the end of July, Pereira set a goal to conquer the light heavyweight division and went after the head of another former champion. After defeating Jan Blachowicz, Alex predictably earned a title shot, not against just anyone, but against the hungry Czech samurai whom we hadn't seen in the octagon since June 2022. The intensity of passions, waves of expectations and anticipations, the collision of 2 different cultures and opposing styles, all of this converged at one moment to give us an unforgettable spectacle.
It was the right choice because show must go on. The division must still grow. Let us see who's the best guy now here, and this guy I want to face.
Bom, quando eu cheguei na organização,
when I came into the UFC, my goal was to be a champion. That's what I wanted to be, and I was able to accomplish that. And then it just kind of happened naturally. If you think about it, I've mentioned the middleweight got hard for me. I've spoken about that. You all know about the weight and how it's so much better right now. And it happened now, having an opportunity to be a champion in another division. I don't know after that. We'll see what happens.
Honestly, many expected that this battle would not take up all the offered time and would end on a bright note during one of the fierce exchanges or in a burst of rage from the bloody brawl. In this case, everything depended on who would land faster, clearer and stronger. And that guy turned out to be Pereira. Already in the last minute of the second segment, he perfectly caught Yuri's chin with a heavy combination and finished what he started in a brutal manner. Technical knockout and the second championship gold within the walls of the UFC.
I want to be a guy who just stay in a bar, so that motivated me, and he rescued me from a bar to be here today. This guy said that he just want to come back fighting 2027. I think he's a very talented guy. He's a waste of talent, so I want to rescue him too to come here and fight.
I wish he spoke English. I wish he spoke English.
I know that I'm not going to do what he did to me, maybe fight 3 times to fight him on middleweight. I know he's a guy that have a history, so I'm going to make that fight.
Hey, Adesanya, come to there.
It means a lot to me to be able to conquer this after so many years of training and dedication. And also it's very important for me to be able to show to everybody, you know what I mean? Everybody know where I came from, my humble beginnings. So to get here and achieve this is a big achievement for me.
Alex Pereira is a unique wonder of nature, a 2-time glory champion and a member of the Hall of Fame of that organization. He entered the strongest league at the age of 34 and in 7 fights within these walls defeated 4 world champions. He himself became the 9th 2-division champion, and all of this with a modest record of 9-2 in mixed style. We don't know about you, but we believe that this man is already worthy of being considered one of the best fighters in the entire history of the company and the sport in general. Share your opinion in the comments under this video. How do you feel about the Brazilian, and do you consider his achievements legitimate? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss new videos, and of course, give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Until next time.